Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ascendance Aftershow. I'm Sam here with Josh, and we are here to talk about episode 8. And wow, what an episode it was.
Yeah, this is the one that's been on my calendar for a while, anticipating it coming up. Because, obviously we all know what I was super aware of what was happening in episode 8. I was going through the episode release schedule when they put it out, and I said, okay, which one is going to be, where am I going to go out in this series of episodes? So it was one that I was looking forward to seeing. And it's a halfway mark of the season. I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but it's kind of feels, if you look at how many people are left, the jury's about to start. There's only 11 people left in the game. It's really getting down to the nitty gritty there. So it's an exciting point.
It is, and I am excited to talk about it. Like this time because I was on a safe team, and so I don't really, I have the perspective that was shown in like the strategy talks and everything, but I just physically wasn't there. So I'm very excited to kind of just get into it and, all the ins and outs and what everyone was thinking. So with that, we have two of our wonderful, I wanted to say co-stars, but that's not fellow players, castmates, thank you, with us to talk about it. So let's bring them in.
I mean, they are both stars, so co-stars works, I think.
Right? Jermin and Charlie, welcome to the after show.
Hey.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming. How's life been since the last time we spoke here?
It's been a week.
Yeah.
It's been busy, but it's been good. It's been a lot of fun rewatching.
Great episode. Love that.
Great episode.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe we're on episode 8 already. It feels like, to me, it still feels like we just left Tennessee. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that we're already 8 episodes into this journey. It's hard to comprehend.
Yeah. One thing that's stood out to me, just in watching, is the outfit changes, because that always for me, it brings me back to, that's when we woke up that day, and and so what's most surprising to me is how much we could cram into a 24-hour period. It is insane the amount of rounds that we go through, and so the what I'm wearing in this episode, which is not relevant to anything, but I just want to say I was at that point. I was so tired and so I don't know. I just needed a minute, because I woke up late that morning, and what you see me wearing is what I went to sleep in, with an extra little sweater, because I was just this is what I've got. So I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but being on the blue team and being ultimately safe for this episode was a blessing. So I was I really needed a minute.
Jermin, what about your wardrobe today? Who are you wearing?
Listen, today I think I'm wearing Sam's sweater and Lance's overcoat.
Jermin was always wearing other people's clothes.
Yeah, always wearing someone's clothes. I think in the previous episode I was wearing Julia's.
There's the sweater.
I was wearing it yesterday.
I think I was wearing a mixture of Julia and Lance. Yeah.
That's so
very nice.
It was always a treat to see what you were gonna walk out in next.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the challenge, the captain's challenge that we did this episode, it involves more running, and
it involved less running.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
Zero running. The team challenge was a lot of running.
The team. Oh my gosh.
I was like,
running is a bad idea.
Yeah. Maybe I would have done better because I have serving experience. So running with the things. Yeah.
Yeah, this is where my brain is at today. So, yeah.
We all have those days.
So, okay. So, the thing with the platter and the balls.
Yeah.
that I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna really like do so good here. How are you all feeling about this one?
Balance is not my strong suit, so I was pretty worried about this one. But seeing that the plate had a bit of a lip on it, I felt that we could use that to our advantage when it came to like 3 balls, which I don't know how you would do without that lip.
Yeah. And Jermin, were you like were right up to the end and you were like head to head with Oakley, right?
Went head to head. I was very, very focused. I really wanted to win. I just want, you want to win captain because you wanted to build your resume. And I was like, I got this. Like you said, the little lip helped because a lot of people were keeping it in the middle. I had it on the little cusp because I could balance it that way. And I had this weird technique of like having my hand up here to kind of like control the ball.
Force control it, yeah.
And then I was like, at the end, I was like trying to get Oakley to throw it. I'm like, Oakley, you've already been captain. Please just let me have this. But he didn't give it to me. And I feel like everyone that was watching, I could feel it. It's like they were all saying Oakley lose, like Oakley drop. And I felt like I was competing for the house.
Yeah.
Lost. It was like, it wasn't like a lot of cheers. It was kind of like, oh.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. Because like I remember being on the sidelines talking with Duke, and we were talking about how we're watching you and Oakley, and we're like, oh, I really hope that Jermin pulls this out, because not only do we want, a more commonly agreed upon target to be unsafe, that even if Oakley wins here, it just adds to his story. It's like that underdog story of like building him up, and like, he's catching steam, and it might just be the thing that kind of like propels him into the next stage of the game in a way. And so I do remember having those conversations of like, okay, he can't win. We're just like shooting like death rays, like drop balls. And that just, yeah. We were rooting for you.
We were. This challenge for me was, I wanted to do so much better than I did because I missed the last endurance challenge because I was captain that round. And so I was like, oh, an endurance challenge. I'm like, something that maybe I can have a chance in. And then I didn't clue into the lip aspect of that plate or whatever it was that we were holding. And I think I made it to two on there. And then it was like, that was it for me. But
I think that's when I clued into it, because you see me, I released right at 0 because I really realized at the very last second this might work.
Yes. And I remember once Charlie came over, him and I started conversing like right away. And it was like, Oakley cannot win. Especially for me, because I was feeling the pressure of the game coming, like it was like right at my back. I'm like, they're right on my back. And I'm like, I need somebody who's perceived not necessarily as a bigger target, but as somebody that is in more people's brains as a target. Like, he's somebody that everybody, every single round is like, let's get Oakley. I'm like, okay, if people are saying his name, they're not going to be saying my name. So I was very disappointed. And I love Oakley, don't get me wrong. It's not personal at all. He's a great guy. But in that moment, in that game, it was like, he cannot win this captain's challenge, or else we're screwed.
What's pretty funny is like, that is what we go talk about immediately, but I'm up there and I'm in 3rd, and I look over and I see Jermin and Oakley, and you see me mouth to someone, I don't know who, maybe Julia or Bergen, but I mouth, should I drop? And then I do, because I'm like, I feel really good at Jermin, and I just worked with Oakley on the Sky boat, which was a really big moment, and Sky's back, so he's definitely going to be sweating that. So they'll probably be fine, whoever captain. I'm probably as okay with whoever's captain. Immediately go to Josh and say, Josh, like, I know you're sweating. I know you're, like, I really want to work with you, and I mean it. And yeah, really hope Oakley doesn't win here. When really, I'm like, it's okay if he wins. But yeah, you and I talked immediately about working together, and really was hoping that would happen.
Yeah, because I was already in the mode of, I had to shift gears really fast because a lot had just happened. Like, we had Sky go home, we had the battle back, Sky comes back in, and so my brain was already like, okay, well, I'm in the 6, but somebody on the 6 has turned on her, and Julia came to me fairly quickly. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but she came to me fairly quickly, like panicked of like, I voted out Sky. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, we're still fine. Like, don't worry about it. I've got you. And that was where you sort of see our relationship start going. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to start moving away from the people who are putting targets on my back, like Sky and Bergen and the rest of the 6, it was like, okay, Charlie, Jermin, Julia are people that I need to start putting more stock in those relationships, which is kind of karmically funny, you know, as we get towards the end of the episode.
Yeah. And so we see the way that the round is set up with Oakley as captain. Oakley's picking 3 different people to start 3 different teams. And then from there, that person that Oakley chose chooses the next person on their team. So I get chosen first. And then was it you, Josh, and then also Bergen?
Yes, but I think it was the other way. I was you and then Bergen and then me. Not that the order really matters, but
yeah. So like that was interesting. Charlie, maybe you know, because you're more of like the Ascendance historian. Have they done a captain pick like this before?
I don't.
Do you remember?
No, I don't remember that specifically. Sorry.
Darn.
I feel like they have.
I feel like they have to.
Yeah. Okay.
But don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Because like watching it, I couldn't remember, like knowing there were 3 teams, I couldn't remember exactly how it had happened. And I was like, wait, did like Oakley just pick all of them? Like, anyways, so.
Yeah, the 6 got chopped up into 3 teams right away. But
yeah. And then.
Probably a blessing.
And a curse.
Yeah.
You guys would have picked each other.
Yeah. So I know I picked Duke because of just, I don't know, I think good to have in a challenge on a team to like compete with, but also, you know, a number for me should we lose or anything happen. Josh, what went into your choice when you picked Julia?
Yeah, it was kind of a similar thing. Like and it may have been something that hurt me eventually, but I was sort of going for the balance of like somebody I trust, but I was more focused on winning the challenge. And so I maybe got me into trouble was not preparing myself of like, okay, if we lose, do I need somebody who maybe will take votes instead of me? But in my brain, I was like, the best way to secure your safety is to win that team challenge. And I'm like, I need somebody who I can rely on. And so like Julia was somebody who I was trying to build a better bond with, who people hadn't quite put together that she was in, you know, like some people knew, but it was sort of like she was the outlier in the 6. Like people knew that Duke and I were close and Sky and I were close and Bergen and whatever, but not as many people had pegged Julia and I. So I was just like, okay, like I think this is a safe pick, but she's also pretty good in the challenges too.
Yeah. Our team ends up being pretty close to our round 1 green team where we crushed the first challenge, right?
Yes.
We just swap in Oakley for Sky.
Yeah. And Jermin, when Julia picks you, like how did you feel about that? Were you happy to be on that team?
Yeah, I was super excited because I was really close with Julia, and Josh and I think we were building something, and I was like, okay, this is a strong team for the challenge. And if we do go into a vote, you know, I'm thinking it's 3 teams. So I'm thinking maybe 2 teams are going into 1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have some allies in the vote. So I was really, really excited.
Mm-hmm. And when you pick Charlie, I can't remember at that point, you probably had 2 people to pick between?
I don't think so. I think I was last pick.
Or you were just last?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was hoping the same thing. I was like, wow, I really hope there's 2 teams going to elimination together, because like either we're all safe and this is perfect, or like we'll watch each other's back and we're half the vote right here. Like we're good no matter what happens, right?
It didn't cross my mind that there could be 2 separate, because we just had a triple. So I'm thinking, okay, if it's either 2 teams are gonna win or 1 team wins and it's 1 whole vote. But I was like, when they revealed that, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to turn on my allies.
Yeah, it was true. It just never was a concept of like doing 2 votes, because I was like, okay, we're getting towards the end-ish of the day. They'll probably do 1 more vote, maybe another challenge like that, you know, because I was assuming we were going to do the team challenge and the vote in the same night, and then that was going to be it for the night, right? So, which was kind of true, but not in the way that we thought it. You know, it wasn't quite how we planned it out in our brains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe that's where I was thinking like, oh, this is like new or something at least unexpected. And it was, two teams going to elimination, but separately. So that might be the new thing my brain was thinking, but who knows? They just keep us on our toes, and it's stressful. But it's fun to talk about now.
Yeah. And it's true. Like, we had already gone through, like, that day was we woke up, voted 3 people out, did the safety chain, Sky went home, did the battle back, did the captain's challenge, and now we're all of a sudden like here in the midst of this team challenge. And it doesn't sound like a lot of things on paper, but when you're living it out, it
ages you.
Yeah.
And then we don't have anybody here from the red team for like kind of like insights on that, but I guess most of the discussion around the red team will just be like in the strategy portion. I think this episode did a really good job of like, you can kind of see like the thread of like how they got from, you know, the names. I mean, everybody but Lance basically's names are out, and we'll talk about it. But when it came to them picking each other, I'm curious if Lance picks Sky as, okay, I want a target on my team. So like, you know, that I'm curious to know if that's what that was.
I think in his confessional, he said something like, I think he was picking her to kind of mend things, like to kind of build a relationship. Because I think he's probably thinking like us. It's not a double, you know. He's thinking It's you know. So he's probably picking her to try to mend a relationship and, you know, build something.
Yeah,
because I think Sky was fairly open about, like, she was very disgruntled coming back in, and so I think she was also starting to like try to find new people. And I think Lance was, you know, this is all conjecture obviously, and we'll have to ask him, you know, at a later point in time, but like she was wanting to build that, he was wanting to build that, so it was like she's kind of more of a free agent at this point than she was before she went home that time before the battle back. So now, Sam, you end up being the puzzle solver for your team in this challenge. Do you remember any of the discussions around like when you were picking who's going to do what and why you ended up there?
I don't remember like specifically. I think the puzzle solver is like the role that I felt most comfortable in, and so I'm just guessing nobody else either wanted it more than I did. So when I spoke up, I was like, I can be solver. Or was like, okay, cool, that's fine. And then we see like Duke is our track star, and he does the running. And then I can't remember how like the other 2 positions were like decided, but I was just happy I got the one that I wanted.
Yeah, I did the running for the previous challenge where we had to run and collect the puzzle pieces. I was not doing it again. So the fact that Duke did it again, I was okay, good on you, but I'm not running.
Yeah, I remember like I know Julia, I don't think wanted to do running.
Yeah, and so, I didn't think I should run either.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I think it. I was like, that's fine, I'll do it. I'll run up and down that driveway. And I kind of wanted to, because I was like, I had so much nervous energy at that point. I'm like, I just need to just like burn it out. And then I saw it was Duke and Bergen too, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna beat these boys up the driveway. Like I was I need to prove myself.
Yeah, and you go flying. You go flying out the gate.
Oh, I was hustling. I was like, awesome. Let's go. It was interesting because like we had no idea. Like Julia was trying to explain what the picture was to me, and she's like, okay, we're gonna do it in like this like pictograph kind of way, almost of like describing what the picture is, instead of going like the other teams were going like section by section of like, okay, you start in this corner and you do this and this and that, whereas Julia was like, okay, here's the whole picture, and I'm
green diamond, red petals, and then some clouds. I'm like, okay, got it. I guess.
And my team, I think we kind of did a hybrid of like both those things. So it was like, okay, here's kind of like what we're trying to achieve, end goal. Now let's go line by line. And so what really, really helped me was the description of each square being like, okay, these are the 2 colors that are in like square number 1, say, like if we're starting at the bottom. And it was the distinction of like, okay, like 2/3 this color, 1/3 that color. And then like the color that there's like the least of it is like in the left corner. And they also had explained that it was a mirror image, like this way, instead of like that. Sorry, that way. And that really helped too, so that when I go for my first check and I'm wrong, I'm like, okay, based on all the information I've received at this point, I know I'm not far off. It's just the shape, but not the colors. So from that point on, I'm just kind of like trying to dial it in, and then I'm just checking till
we were really close.
We got it
too, but we didn't get that same information on the axis of symmetry. And I was eavesdropping on you and Dave so much. Great communication between you two, by the way. Very clear. I spent no time eavesdropping on the other team. It was not helpful. But towards the end, I was just like, I need to know the bottom, the symmetry at the bottom, and like, it's not completely symmetrical, right? And we just, the dang clouds overlapping on the bottom. That's the part I was missing.
Yeah, that's the part that tripped me up.
I was really worried that there'd be an idea that I was throwing, especially because Jermin and I in the wind challenge, I was like, Jermin probably knew that I was going to throw that despite the wind. So like, if we lose this and I'm in the anchor position, oh no, I really hope this doesn't come back to bite me.
Which is like one of the thoughts that not that I thought you were going to throw it specifically, but like for me, I was like, this is so important. I'm like, do I just volunteer for the last spot, that puzzle spot, so that I know, that I did my best, right? Like, so that there's nobody else that can.
It's sabotageable at any stage if you really want it.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
And I was pulling on the top. I was looking at Sam's puzzle. I had my sweater up as a barrier to stop others on mine, and I was trying. Don't worry. When I try, I can't win the challenge. So throwing is me saving face. Trust
me. One of my favorite moments from watching this is, I think it was Bergen and Corian. And
I know what this is.
Yeah. And so they're both like, they're on the ground now, and they're like trying to like trace it out, and like there was just all these instructions like flying out. Was it Bergen instructing Corian?
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it was just kind of like word salad. Like I wasn't really understanding what was going on, even like having all the information watching it, and Corian was just like, yeah, like something, and I was like, he didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I think he runs away, asks a follow-up question, turning back that like does not match at all either, and Bergen then goes back and just commiserates with Sky instead of
he's not getting it.
Like, he's not getting it at all. We are fucked. Like, oh my god.
And then after that, it was like, all right, let's start over.
It was so funny to watch, like standing there. I think Jermin and I a couple of times while we were exchanging our information just kind of looked over at what they were doing. We're like, oh, they're fucked. Like, and like listening to Bergen and go back down to where Sky was, and just like, it just was like just a hot mess. And it was like, for me at the time, I was like, okay, at least we're ahead of one team. Like, okay, we're there's one team behind us, because in my head I was like, okay, 2 teams are winning this, so it's like, okay, we have one team behind us, like we've got this. And so I think it kept my morale up in like, okay, I've just got to keep going.
We were close for so long.
How many times do you think you checked, Charlie? Like,
I checked a lot, especially early when I was like, I know we're close. Like the top half, I was pretty confident I was right for a long time. And it looked a lot like Sam's, so I checked a lot.
Do we want to talk about the red team vote first?
Sure.
And then we can get to the big one.
Yeah.
Not to say that the red team vote wasn't a big one, but
I think this was all of our first time really getting the insight on that vote. I had no idea about anything that went down that round.
Me either. What a blunder. Yeah.
I can't believe Oakley was like very willing to work with Sky on this, or at least like switch off in that way, and because he just got a bad vibe from these one-on-one conversations that he felt didn't make sense. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if the round, I don't know if it was the round prior, but the round me, Sky, and Oakley were like the safe not safe round. Wait, how many episodes ago was that?
That was the safety chain, right?
That was 2.
2. Okay, so okay, yeah. We had kind of like that opportunity to like bury the hatchet, kind of. So I don't know if that kind of helped here. Then maybe I don't know. Bergen's name comes up, but I don't think it's like it caught any traction. Like,
I don't think it's in a serious capacity either, right? Like, it's kind of a fake name,
but
that's what
name
kicks
only
off
comes up because Corian brings it up for some reason, because it wasn't really talked about.
Yeah. And that was kind of Oakley's reasoning. It's like, well, why would you ever tell me Bergen's name? Shouldn't you tell me Sky? Like, every time? So what's going on?
That created the paranoia. And that was the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like something that I was getting whiffs of but hadn't quite gotten the handle on it is like Bergen was really connected with a lot of people in that game, like because he had the 6, but then he also was close with Lance, and like you see him having other conversations with other groups of people that he's really insulated with. He has the mob as well, so like it just you don't necessarily realize that in the moment, but Bergen I think is one of those names that if you bring it up, you better be sure you have the shot. Right?
Mike learned that lesson the hard way. I mean, Corey's got to learn. A few people have. Yeah, he's got a very wide-spreading social network, and he's incredibly good at building those connections and knowing the connections he needs to make too.
Yeah, I mean, throwback to one of the earlier episodes, but you see Bergen talking to Julia, about, well, Josh and Sky are close, and so we need to break that up. So, this 6 is still pretty fresh. And, he's already
he's pre-gaming the end game for it.
Yeah, saying like, I'm ready and willing. I'm going to keep playing this game for now, but just so you know, down the road that and that was something I had no idea about.
Well, we had those conversations too, Bergen and I.
Because
he and I don't know if this ever came out, but like I think it was night 1. It was very, very early on. I was walking into the room that he was sleeping in, and he just looked at me and he said like, ride or die, like to the end. And I was like, absolutely yes. So like we had that. So we had those conversations of like Sky's becoming not a liability, but just is creating a larger target around us. So like not yet, but soon we're gonna need to take the shot if we want to move forward. And so like that's why when she went out in the safety chain round, I was like, okay, here's a chance. And then she comes back in and again it's like this presence of these two are working together. And I was like, I love you, Sky, but why?
Even within the 6, clearly he's building multiple escape plans. Like he knows how that big alliance has to inevitably play out one way or another. So he's gonna make sure he gets out of it alive.
Yeah. And we don't hear like Lance's name come up at all.
No.
And so, and then Lance is not able to convince people on Sky. So it seems like ultimately falls on to Corian here.
Yeah, and Bergen's in the middle of this. Like he still was the swing vote, but it seemed like for him, like it kind of felt like Corian did this to himself, so it was more reasonable and easier to explain to Lance after the fact why he would vote that way than the other way around.
Yeah.
Corian's great, so great, so much fun, great confessionals. Like,
I'm gonna miss the confessionals. Oh
absolutely.
My gosh. Yeah. But now for the green team. What I don't know. I'm just like
missing Julia.
I've got most of the green team here. I'm like, let me just listen in on what was going through all of your heads.
So this was the worst case scenario for this team. These are all people that we all wanted to work with, right? And admittedly, Oakley being the safe one in all this is also incredibly unfortunate. Even though I just worked with them on the Sky vote, that was our one vote together, right? So that kind of sucks for me. For me, the really big piece of missing context is Julia and I had a conversation at 3 a.m. hiding in the bushes outside the house on this behind here. There's a bush
Oh
and
my
we're hiding out there.
I just realized that's
He
the
needs a
property.
little,
That's the
like,
spot.
he needs a little
Just
teleprompter,
realized,
like
yeah.
drawing.
A little circle right there. So we were hiding in the bushes back there so no one would see us. And, you know, she was very worried about Sky's return to the game, you know, and she had to explain to Sky what happened. And we were very open about our positions in the game and our fears coming into the game and previous games. And we shared everything, right? Like I told her, look, I'm very close to Bergen, who I know him from before this game. Not like we hadn't talked in person really before this because you're on polar opposites and placements, but I have that connection. And like, yeah, you like him a lot too. So like, that's another avenue for us. And she shared with me that Josh has the Ascendance advantage. And that was big because it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, Julia, you realize if he plays it, it's you, me, or Jermin, right? And she's like, I guess so. And I was like, well, we got to do something, right? So we sit there and we make a plan for a little bit. And we go, well, we need 3 votes and we need Josh to be absolutely comfortable in not playing his advantage. And we need this in set before tomorrow morning, because if we're using strategy time to get this vote, to get this plan together, that's not going to work. He needs to be absolutely comfortable. We initially weren't sure if we wanted to bring Oakley into the plan at all, because again, we only needed 3. But to give a fake plan to 2 people might just make that an even bigger risk. And Oakley was roommates with Jermin. So if we go wake up Jermin, we have to go wake up Oakley. So we're like, fuck, we need to bring him in too. So we go wake up Jermin and Oakley, and we pitch this. And we make it clear, like, look, it's going to be one of the 3 of us. And if you say no to this, like, it's hard to deny this plan with who's in the room, right? Because then it's saying, like, you are going after one of us. And I think Julia leaves a little bit. And as we kind of finalize the plan, Josh walks into the room. And I go, shit, I have to leave right now. This is perfectly setting the stage for this plan, where, like, I am putting out Josh's name, and I need to seem incredibly nervous tomorrow. And you guys can say that my plan's not getting traction. This is perfect. You know your roles. Like, peace. I got to leave. So I just ran out. And that's the context for this vote that we see.
Wow.
I'm so nervous all day.
That's huge. Like,
it's huge.
That's that it makes a lot of things make way more sense. And you know, yeah, damn.
Go watch the episode again. Yeah, both Jermin and Josh said, "I'm sorry for anything I say about you this episode."
Yeah,
in strategy time. Like, interesting.
So Jermin. 3 a.m, you get woken up by all of this. What are you thinking? What's your initial reaction to this plan?
I'm shocked. I'm shook because I didn't know about the Ascendance advantage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something major in the game. I was told that it's leave the vote, and then the next day it's going to be a full pendant?
A pendant, yeah. So in the morning it's a steal a vote.
Right. So I was like really worried about it. And I was like, okay, I'm fully in on this plan, because if not, it's probably going to be
have to be.
It's, you know, it's just it's too little bit of people for me to really try to do something shady. So I'm like, okay, I'm down with the plan. I'm going to play my role. I'm going to act my ass off. I'm going to make sure that Josh feels safe. And Oakley and I were roommates, so we were really close. So I was like, I know I have Oakley. He's going to have my back. So I'm glad that they brought it to both of us, because I wouldn't have been comfortable with leaving Oakley out of it. So I just knew my role was to make Josh comfortable, make him think we're going after Charlie, and that's what we did.
Dang. Okay, my question for you, Josh. 3 a.m, maybe 3:30 in the morning. Who knows at this point? You walk in. Do you get a sense that like anything is off? Like where's your head at? Like at this point?
Yeah. So they don't show it, but I don't want to spoil anything. But we're like, there's a group of us all in that living room downstairs, you know, hanging around the TV, and I kind of, as I'm walking around, going to the bathroom, sitting on the couch, like nearest to that long hallway, I kind of pop my head over my shoulder down the hallway and see Oakley and Charlie and Jermin all in a room together.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's half the vote.
That's suspicious.
That's half the vote. And to me, it was like, okay, well, I know like they both said they're close to me, and I don't know what their relationship to Oakley is like. And so I was like, it just was like alarm bells. And so like I just kind of casually walk in. I don't even remember if there was a conversation of just like, I think my excuse was, hey guys, did you know that there's something happening on the TV?
Yes.
Like, did you hear about this? Because I'm like, I need them out of that room. Like, I need them not talking to each other. I need to distract them. And Jermin comes and sits down beside me on the couch. And I'm like, hey, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, what is going on? Are we good? Like, why are you guys all talking together? And he kind of was like, no, you're fine. Like, we're just chatting. It's just like, not game talk, whatever he has to say. And so it like calms me down a little bit. But I mean, I spent, who was it? It was, I think, were you there, Sam? It was you and I and Sky and Bergen. And we all spent an hour and a half, maybe less, running around outside searching for an advantage of any kind. Like there was a few of us out there.
Good thing you
we had a meeting in the pool house.
I think it was like you must have come back inside, because I don't think there was anybody else outside. Like I think we come back inside, the video is playing, I see you guys in the room together. So like I don't even know what time of night it is. Like we're scrambling to try to find anything, because we're like we just need something. And so it just it was alarming, and I was like, I need to just I was trying not to panic, because when you panic you get anxious, then you do and say things that you're going to regret.
Play your power. Don't do that.
No, but like I didn't want my anxiety and my paranoia and my stress to manifest in a way that was going to definitely hurt me. So it was a lot, especially at that early/late in the night. It just it's hard to remember it all because so much was happening.
There was a lot going on that night.
So in the morning, and like the discussion period starts, is at any point in time, I guess from Jermin and Charlie, from your perspectives, like, is the plan always the plan? Like it's stuck and like you're just keeping that up until the discussion period ends, or like did anything have a chance of changing?
I had no other choice, so I had to keep it going and trust Jermin and Julia. I check in with them one-on-one, because also I had to have conversations that like continue that narrative, but it was always like, look, this is still the fake plan, right? And they're like, yeah. So
I think I have talks with Josh one-on-one, and I have talks with Julia. And my talk with Josh, it was so convincing from him that he thought it was Charlie. It was so convincing that I thought, oh my gosh, is it actually going to vote Charlie?
Which she did.
So I had to go check in with Julia. I'm like, Julia, wait, are we voting Charlie? Because if we are, I'm down. But I want to know, because Josh is convinced. He's like, it's set in stone. It's done. I'm like, because if we're gonna vote Charlie, please let me know, because I'm not gonna like be on
too excited there.
So it was just really good on everyone. They did what they're supposed to do, and I was just like, so convinced. I'm like, wait, what's the real plan?
you see me say it later to Julia one-on-one towards the end. It's like, I'm confident it's working because people outside the vote are coming to me with this. Like Lance you see me talk to Lance, and Lance is like, hey man, like just letting you know, this might be a good opportunity to go for Josh, and you might be in a little danger here. Just FYI, like you consider that opportunity. I'm like, yes, sir, you got it. Good idea. And then Julia comes to me and she's like, is it working? I'm like, yeah, Bergen told me like I'm in danger. Like this is working. Like it's getting out there. Like this is the perception of the plan. And she's like, why would Bergen tell you? Like, again, remember, I know him before this. Like this is the truth. Like it's out there.
Yeah.
But I didn't know Julia was going to vote for me. It makes sense for her to do, but I didn't expect this. When I saw the second vote, you see me, I'm pissed. I wasn't expecting that.
When the second vote came out, your head kind of tilted.
Yeah, I'm pissed. And
it threw me too, though, because we can talk more about it later, but by that point I was convinced it was me. And so then all of a sudden when the second vote for Charlie comes out, I was like, maybe I'm wrong.
Both of us. And shortly after, I go up to Oakley. I'm like, it's okay that you voted for me. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, no. Two mistakes. Oh. And if he voted for me, it wasn't okay. But I was going to tell him that. But.
And it's interesting you said, Jermin, that like you were so convinced, because like I was like, this has to be the plan. I'm like, there's no other option. I didn't want to vote for Charlie either, but I was like,
I didn't want to vote for you.
I was like, this has to be. I think I had myself so convinced, because I was like, if it's not Charlie, then it's Jermin, but it can't be Jermin. But then it's Julia, but it can't be Julia. But then it's me, but it can't be me. You know, so it was like, I was like just so convinced, and I was like, you can see me the entire time. Like, I'm so nervous. I can just see it in my body language. Like, I don't stop playing with the ring on my finger the entire time, because I just was so scared. And I was like, please don't be me.
We were forced into doing this by circumstance. Like, there was no malice or wanting each other out by any means, which,
and that's what makes it easier to swallow, right? It's like we had this team that we were all super confident in our abilities to win the challenge, and then we lose the challenge, and it just happens to be a double, right? Like,
any other situation is so different.
Any other, roll of the dice a different way. The production decides to, the thing that got me was I was really hoping at that point when it was a double, I'm like, let's do the vote tonight, because my advantage at that point was still a steal a vote. And so
sometimes better.
I wanted that more, because I'm like, I don't want to leave the vote, because now I'm just screwing Julia over.
Steal was really strong.
And so I was like, okay, well, it doesn't matter if we only have 2 votes, me and Julia. That's fine. I'll steal Oakley's vote. And that was my plan. I was like, okay, great. I'll steal Oakley's vote. He's going to vote for me probably no matter what. So I'll steal his vote, and Julia and I can vote for, I guess probably would have still been you, Charlie, unfortunately. But it's like, and then we find out it's the next morning. I'm like, it was such a hard thing to wrestle with, of like, do I just play it?
Yeah, that's really interesting. It is work. It is. Yeah, you'd much rather steal a vote there. That's tough.
So just to clarify, in the morning, at the time of that elimination, if you would use the Ascendance advantage, what would it do? What was its function at that point?
Yeah, so it was day 3 at that point. So it had morphed into a leave the vote, which is basically a safety without power. So the instructions were very clear, and actually it's in the other room. I could go grab it if I wanted clarity, but the instructions were that I had to play it before the votes were cast. Whereas I think with the steal a vote or the extra vote, which it was the first day, or the pendant, which it becomes on the 4th day, you can play that at a different point in time. But the leave the vote instructions, and I'm pretty sure this is correct because I read that thing like 70 times trying to figure out the wording on it, was that I had to play it before the vote. So when Papa says, does anybody have anything they'd like to say, that would have been my moment to stand up and say, yes, actually, I'm going to leave.
I was shitting bricks. I was like, oh my God, is he about to leave? Is he about to leave? Is he about to leave?
Yeah, I mean, same, right? Like, that was everything. Everything was in that moment. Because if you do, then it's like,
wow.
Like,
really and truly, if you swap out Julia for anybody, I probably play it. The only reason I didn't play it is because Julia was there. And I was like, if I play it and I leave, she's going to go home. And
well, Jermin and I wouldn't have voted for her in this case. I think whoever swapped.
I think it would have been a tie. I think me and Oakley vote Charlie, and they probably vote me.
Well, over anyone else in Julia's place?
What do you mean?
Like if Julia wasn't there, so it was me, you, Charlie, Oakley, and Dave, or Maddie, or
I think anyone else I would have voted for instead.
Oh, so if someone else was there, I think they go home because we would all.
I think anybody else.
Yeah.
So,
I'm curious, without the knowledge of the Ascendance advantage, the 3 a.m. conversation in the bush with you, Charlie and Julia, are you thinking of still pushing the same thing, but just with less, like?
Yeah, for me, like Julia and Jermin are my number ones in this game equally. Not unlike Jermin put it, where I'm his other number one. His 1.5.
Okay, you go ahead, and I'm gonna explain.
We love options.
No, I get it. It's more of a tier list than a numerical ranking. I get it. I probably would again out of circumstance, but I wouldn't have been so like forcefully underhanded about it. Probably, like, if that happens, we're not jury yet. Maybe maybe still. I think the person I go for doesn't change. I'm just not so sneaky about it because I might not have to be. There's only so much you can do to play around powers if you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's my philosophy on powers. I don't need to have it. I just want to know where it is.
That's the most important thing. That's the biggest thing. So like when Dave had the pendant that we found, I was thrilled to know where it was. Less thrilled to know that Sky knew about it, but thrilled to know where
everybody
it was.
else.
And then I was very sad when it was released back out in the wild. and everyone else?
Yeah, I knew about it. Sky came to me very quickly and was like, hey, just so you know, Dave has a pendant. I was like, cool, thanks for telling me.
God. Oh my God.
Yep. Yeah, I knew, and
depending on who knew, that information did not stay private very long. Depending on who knew, like Bergen told us about Debbie's half pendant very quickly. Okay. Sky told us about Dave's pendant very quickly.
This 6. Oh yeah, Dave wasn't part of the 6. Interesting.
No. If anybody had information, it got disseminated very quickly.
Which is interesting because Dave and Sky were so close coming into this, because they knew each other before this. Not to veer too off topic. Sorry, I'm just processing that. So you know what? I'm very glad Dave grabbed it off the wall before I could. I'm thrilled because if otherwise it gets leaked that I have it and I'm not in the 6, and then I'm in big trouble. Okay, perfect.
Wait, did you find it and let him have it, or did?
No. So sorry, I know this is several episodes ago. So I walked into the living room. I overhear Nia and Dave just being like, "I wonder where it could be." Nia walks away, and I go up to Dave. I was like, "You know where I'd look? I'd look behind the banners downstairs. You want to go look? Okay." And there it was, and he just happened to be on the side where it was. So he put his hand on it first. But like, we were cooperative about it. Like, I was hoping that, he wouldn't target me to get the information out, and nor was I planning vice versa. And after he played it, I was telling him, like, look, I really don't think you need to play it. If you do, fine, but I don't think you need to. And he didn't. But I really wanted to show, like, look, no ill will. Like, this is fine. We still had that connection. Look, we didn't go for each other. Please still be my friend after this. That being said, yeah, I'm glad then people knew he had it, not me.
So, like, the votes. No, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, Jermin, you were going to elaborate on your number one's comment.
Yeah, they were my number ones. Charlie, my other number one. Well, I kind of felt, because the plan was brought to me. The plan was made by Julia and Charlie. Then it was brought to me. It wasn't like I was in the discussion.
That's fair.
Plan.
That's fair.
So I did feel a little bit of, okay, they're doing their thing, and
But you were sleeping in the same room as Oakley, and
I know. I wasn't like too upset about it, but I was just like, okay. Yeah. I was feeling a little bit of a type of way because I'm like, okay, are Julia and Charlie closer than I think that I am to Julia?
No, and I think that's something I tried to bring to you earlier. Is like, look, we came to you as soon as possible. We knew you had to be part of it, and like we wanted you there, but you're in the same room as someone else, and we couldn't avoid that, and the timing had to be now.
Yeah.
So like, that's part of the conversation where you're like, this is your plan. I was like, no, this is our plan. This is our plan. You're just as much a part of this. You get just as much credit. Please.
So, Josh, your Ascendance advantage, is that, I can't remember if there's a distinction with that can it be willed to somebody, or is it dead once like you're out of the game?
So the distinct difference between the Ascendance advantage and any of the other advantages was most of the advantages you had to will when you were leaving. So like Debbie almost gave some stuff away, but those were public. The Ascendance advantage specifically said that I could will it after the vote, after I was gone.
In secret.
So, and it was in secret. So I didn't have to stand up in front of everybody and say, hey, I'm giving this to, such and such. Yeah. I could wait till I was done. And then when I was with, I think it was Taylor and Michael Davis downstairs, they were like sort of my handlers. At that point, I was like, hey, here's my advantage. It says I can will this after I'm voted out. Can you please give it to Julia? So I had to make that decision very quickly because I knew that people like Bergen and Sky were going to expect it to come to them. And I know, having talked to them post-game, they were very surprised when I didn't will it to somebody when I was walking out. So they thought it was dead and gone. which was probably to the advantage of Julia at this point.
Yeah.
Because like we had conversations, and again, this goes back to why she voted for you, Charlie. I was not that I was desperate, but I was like, this is the point in my game where I need to really decide who I'm moving forward with. And I went to Julia and I said, hey, look, I know we haven't worked together that much in votes, but you're in the 6. I really trust you. I really want to move to the end. I'm like, I want to go to the final, whatever, with you. I'm like, you're like the person I want to be at the end with. And I think that she told me later, she's like, that's the reason I voted for Charlie, was because you came to me and it was such a sincere, real conversation that she knew that she didn't have to vote for me because the other 3 of you all were. So it was.
Yeah. And aside from Oakley, because I think Jermin might be Oakley's number 1. I don't know. But the 3 of us here, Julia's our number 1, it seems, or like at least on this team. Like she was in a perfect spot here. So no matter, like, even if somebody else flipped a vote on me, still so good with you, and especially flipping her vote on me. Like Julia was in a win-win situation no matter what.
And again, that goes to why I didn't want to play the leave a vote, because I had just said to Julia, I'm like, you're my ride or die. Like, you're my number 1. Oh, and also, by the way, peace out. I'm going to go and be over here while you vote somebody out, you know, like it just, it kind of feels like I shot myself in the foot, but you
have to think about the long game too. It makes sense.
I was trying to play it like I was surviving the vote, because I really thought I was. I felt so strongly in my conversations, and you see it in my voting confessional. I was like, I've come up with this master plan. I'm going to tell Jermin that Charlie's targeting him, and Charlie that Jermin's targeting him, and they're going to fire shots across at each other, and I'm going to try to dodge the bullets and see if I can sneak through. I wasn't totally convinced, but I was like, I had to believe in something. I was like, if not, I'm going to go insane.
That reminds me of a moment with you and Oakley, when Josh and Oakley were talking, and you said those exact thing, like, oh, they're coming after each other. Oakley goes, oh. Like he was like, wait, the vote's not on you? Like basically that's what he was saying.
Oh boy.
Did y'all see that?
Sorry?
Go rewatch and watch the conversation between them, and he's like, yeah, so Jermin and Charlie are targeting each other. The vote is off of me. And Oakley goes, oh.
So I think it's off of me completely right now. I'm hoping.
That's good.
So Charlie's.
I'll have to go find that.
So
I was gonna say I did
absolutely rewatch that.
Yeah,
but just what you're saying, Josh, like even in a world where you play it, like you said, like it showed, like you leave some of your allies potentially out to dry, and even if they survive, it's still a scary thing to do. So for playing for the long game, to hold it and show that, like, look, I have to have faith in my allies here where it matters most. Like it doesn't make it wrong to hold it.
And that's the hard part about these games, is you are forced to trust people in scenarios where you probably shouldn't trust those people because they're playing the same game as you. And it's just this weird dichotomy of like, they're, the thought crosses your mind, they could be blindsiding me right now. But you're like, no, because I've done all of this work. I've done all of this planning. I've done all of this legwork to prove to these people that they can trust me and that I can trust them. And again, it's that tier system of Julia said to me after the fact, she's like, I was really close to you, truly and honestly. You were like my number 3, but Charlie and Jermin were my numbers 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like it was like if it was any other
team configuration.
But to be a number 3 in a game of 16 people,
I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that at all. It just I happen to also be alongside her numbers, like
it is the worst
1.
team possible.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person with no say in how it was picked. I just want to say that. So
I mean, I only picked one person.
I was thankful to be picked, I guess, because I think the other team I was pretty sweating. So
who was the second? Who else was there?
Who was the second last pick?
Corian, was it?
It might have been that one. And I was like, I don't want to be back on Sky's team. I'm not really sure I want to be on Corian's team after Safety Chain. I don't want to be there. Both seem bad in completely different ways.
So I guess, Josh, now to ask you this question, is there like anything that has like that happened in the game, or anything that like you just wanted to talk about or shed more light on, or yeah.
I think the only thing I want to talk about is like Lance isn't here. I want to talk to Lance. I'm like just the way that the edit is going, it looked like we hated each other in that house. And I come back and I'm sitting here with my friends and my fiance, and we're like, oh, they're like, oh, Lance hates you. I'm like, he doesn't hate me. I love Lance. Like, Lance is one of the greatest people on this entire planet. Like, and so I'm like, I just want to know, like, Lance, do you hate me? Like, is there something that we need to talk about?
Yeah.
I think he was just jealous of your power position in the game.
And
the edit's always going to edit, right?
Yeah.
You need arcs, you need confrontation.
I don't think we had bad blood. I don't. It just is like, it was those combinations of Lance, I think, was the person who ended up the furthest from me in the game just by happenstance of we never were on a team. We never voted together except for when I guess it was Debbie. Was that the team he was on?
Yeah.
Like and that really was, we sort of crossed paths. It was like, hey, I hear the vote's Debbie. Yeah, I hear the vote's Debbie too. Good. Okay. And then we moved on. So I think it just was the combination of happenstance of we never just ended up in that same arena, and so by force, I guess, we ended up being, conflicting forces of, well, I'm not on his side, he's not on my side, so we kind of have to play against each other. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because you have this idea in your brain, right, of like how the experience went for you, and so I'm like, I felt like I played a really good game. I was really proud of myself,
and you should be.
But I don't think I realized, and I still am in denial about this because you all keep saying it. And I'm like, I didn't think I was the biggest threat. I didn't think I was running the game. I didn't think or feel all of these things in the moment. But to watch it, I'm like, I still don't believe it. But it just is fun to watch back because I feel like I had a large part to play in the first half of the season. And I feel like I was justified in the edit. I don't feel like I got a raw deal. I feel like I got very fairly edited. And I don't know. To me, I'm very proud. I'm very happy and proud because,
as you should be,
it was my first live game, and I had always had this thought of like, can I really do it? Because you sit here at home, you play orgs, you do the thing, and you're like, oh, I'm such a good player. You know what I mean? But to actually go into a house and a game like Ascendance, where it's like, it's not the full production of a real reality show, but it's pretty close. And so to be able to do it.
It feels like it.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that happens that really doesn't get represented. Again, because I won 2 captains challenges. I was only safe round 1. Was the only time I wasn't in a vote because we won the team challenge. So, Mike goes, I'm voting. Gluck goes, I'm voting. The triple, I'm voting.
At all.
And I guess safety chain then is the only time. But that was still that was still stressful. I was still doing a lot in those conversations and in those episodes. And so it to me felt very representative of my experience because I just happened to be involved in a lot of the things that happened up to this point. So
yeah, I think a lot of people were disappointed or shocked this episode because you were probably a lot of people's winner pick.
A lot.
Based on the way the game was going, people probably really thought, oh, damn.
And your connections, truly. Any other team format, it goes entirely differently.
Yeah.
It's humbling. It's humbling for sure.
Oh, I was saying you should pump you up. You're killing it.
Yeah. I'm not that person. I'm very much I don't take compliments well. I don't take praise well. I'm very much that person of that's just me. I was just being myself. I was just doing the best that I could. And so when people are like, oh my God, that was so amazing. That was so amazing. I'm like, well, okay, thank you. It's a humbling in a good way. It means a lot.
That's good.
And coming from you 3, I was very close to in the game and even afterwards. So just coming from the people that it's coming from, it just means a lot to me. It's a very humbling experience, and I'm very grateful. It's all gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, you had me feeling the feels in the episode, and again, I don't know if you
should be a speechwriter. Oh my God.
Even watching it, tears at the show, tears watching the show. Like the speech was so good.
So good.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
No, and I definitely like I was shocked just not having been a part of any of it. So, you know, all these emotions going through my head of like, oh no, like that's like just such an integral part of like the six and like the core of my game too. I was just like, well, shit, I'm sad and this sucks.
Yeah, and like I said, so when we were going to vote, I knew I had to play the advantage then or never, right? And so I don't play it. We go to vote. I cast my vote. I say, I think maybe I'm okay. Like I was holding on to every shred of hope. I was like, I think maybe there's a slim chance. And then I walked. So we went into the room, and then I walked through the kitchen because I always liked to grab like a drink or a snack or something, and then come back into the voting room. And why am I getting emotional talking about this? I see Jermin sitting in the seat because he voted first, and I think I was the second to vote. And he's just stone-faced, straight ahead, looking at the wall, no emotion, no eye contact. Like he didn't even move when I walked in the room. Like he wasn't responding to any outside influence. He was just staring straight ahead. And I went, holy fuck. I was like, they got me. I'm like, this is it. And so it just was like, I had time to sit there. I had time to sit there and think. I'm like, okay, they got me. How am I feeling? Sad. Okay, that's fine. And then all of those things. I played a really good game. I'm really proud of myself. What am I going to say? I don't want to be lost for words. I don't want to be stumbling over my words. I want to be, you know, presentable as I walk out the door. So I had time to sit there and think of what I was going to say. And I stuck to a little bit of it. And I just remember seeing Michael Davis sitting across the room, and he was one of the first friends I made in the org community. And we became very, very close friends, and he knows how much this means to me. And I just saw the emotion in his eyes and on his face, and I just lost it. It was like, oh no, I'm gonna cry. But it meant so much to me, and it still does mean a lot to me. So I'm gonna stop talking now, because or else I'm gonna keep going for forever, because I could talk about this experience forever. But yeah, it was profound and weird and surreal and amazing. And again, the superlatives will go on forever, because I meant every word of what I said to everybody, because Ascendance, like, I feel like we became a little family, you know what I mean? Like we went through that all together. And I just was really excited to see what was going to happen next. Because it did really feel like the first big thing that kind of had happened. So it was interesting to see who was going to follow me out the door next.
Yeah. Like it's, you know, getting such a big piece off of the board just really opens things up. So yeah, like I'm excited to see like where things go, or like how they end up going the way that they go, even just yeah, it's just really a really big change to shake up the game. And yeah, I mean, we'll be back here to talk about it again next week. And yeah, so we'll close this thing out. Jermin or Charlie, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we end this thing here today?
Josh was robbed, undeniably. I'll say it.
I agree.
Stop it.
Oh, justice for Josh. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jermin and Charlie, for coming on and chatting with us. This just was a fantastic conversation, and just adds so much insight into, you know, how that vote went down, because it was a big one. But we will be back again for episode 9, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.